Всем доброго времени суток. Сегодня мы продолжаем проходить рыцарскую сагу о нашем любимом герое Индро. Что же с ним будет? Что же с ним будет? Так, мы уже освободили Таунберг. Мы спасли нашего новообретенного батю, который погулял с нашей мамой. На самом деле я не очень понимаю всю эту историю, но она мне кажется интересной. Может быть, немножечко сделать погромче. Параметры. Одну секунду. Ну да. Так, поехали дальше. Ну вот, по-моему, нормально. Сейчас мне интересно, что будет у нас с нашей подругой. Тереза. Конечно. Хотела бы кто-нибудь сходить? С радостью. Что же произойдет? Неужели опять этот петух? Угу. Да, даже не знаю, как сказать. Вот же... Да, странная парочка получилась. Панрацик Кобыла и Индро. Так, звучит нелепо, да, Мартина.
Actually, I get a feeling the whole thing was agreed between them. So Radzig was glad she wasn't left alone with a child.
Да, это просто... И что это будет для тебя означать? Да, интересно. И я не знаю, никто не знает. Он такой шевалье, как во Франции. Это был шевалье. Да, не стал дворянином. Ну, наверное, да, кто бы не хотел.
Who wouldn't want it?
I think there's a little more to it than that, Henry. You'd have huge responsibilities.
True. But anyway, it's not important what I want. A bastard will always be a bastard.
Да, бастард всегда бастард.
All sorts of things can change. Would you still care for me, a common millmaid, if you were a nobleman?
Да.
I'll always be fond of you. Nothing will change that.
I'll remember that. I hope you won't regret those words.
No fear of that.
Интересно, у него когда-нибудь хватит духу сделать ей предложение. Просто я бы хотел их поженить в этой игре.
Home again. See you again sometime.
Yes. Come by again.
Ну что ж, теперь пойдем по главному квесту. Там нас ждут в приемной. Кто-то хочет что-то обсудить со мной, видимо. Надо будет еще убить разбойников как-нибудь. Там разные способы есть, я так понимаю. Нужно отравить им пищу, чтобы они все поели и умерли. Можно, не знаю еще, что там сделать. Можно просто их побороть, всех на руках. Забежать на коне туда и всех размесить, раскидать в разные стороны. Такое тоже наверняка имеет место быть. Так, где же тут? Где же? Видимо, тут налево. Ой, пробежал. А, понятно. Не туда. Долго будем бежать, поэтому конь. Где он? Конь. С первого раза что-то он не зовется. Какой-то злобный конь. Итак, мы бежим в эту крепость на какое-то совещание. Вот и триггер.
Oh, Hal. Are you going to the meeting with Margrave Jobst as well?
I am. What about Istvan? I assume...
That we didn't catch him? No. Because if we had, you'd be the first one to know. Have no fear. We'll get him eventually.
I hope you're right. Anyway, let's go and see what Jobst wants from us.
My lords, Christ's blessings on you all.
And on you, Lord Capon.
And this is my son, Henry.
I didn't know you had a son, Sir Redzig.
It came as a bit of a surprise to young Henry, too.
Никто этого не ожидал.
This gentleman here is John II of Liechtenstein, a member of my council.
I'm honored, gentlemen.
Come join us. Margrave Jobst was just about to tell us the reason for his visit. Your Grace?
I'm sure we're all agreed, Your Graces, that all this unrest must come to an end. This kingdom...
Да, королевству нужен король как никогда.
Which king?
My cousin, Wenceslas IV, who is being held in captivity.
I have to confess, my lord, that your answer surprises me a little. If I'm correctly informed, until recently you sided with your other cousin, Sigismund.
That I cannot deny, and I have always stated my position plainly. But times have changed.
How have they changed, Your Grace?
Sir, there is one thing on which we undoubtedly concur. That King Wenceslas, unfortunately, did not inherit his father's gift for governing. Sadly, his failures have cost Bohemia, the nobles, and our whole Luxembourg family a great deal of money and effort.
Да, расточительство, одним словом.
It's in his temperament. He cares only for wine, women, and the hunt. A king, in fact, who never wanted to be king.
Then why didn't he just let his brother have the crown?
Young sir, the crown weighs heavy when there are duties to be performed, but to surrender it means giving up great privileges too.
But he did surrender power to his brother. When things started getting out of hand, Wenceslas appealed to Sigismund for help in restoring order.
What you're saying, Wenceslas invited him here?
This is starting to make my head spin.
Actually, it makes sense when you think about it. Sigismund wanted to re-establish the power of the whole House of Luxembourg. He thought if he helped Wenceslas win the imperial crown, In return, his brother would help him become the king of the Romans, and leave the actual reign of Bohemia and the empire to him. Sigismund would govern, while Wenceslas could carry on doing what he was best at, enjoying the life of the imperial court.
Why wasn't Wenceslas crowned Holy Roman Emperor long ago? He was already elected king of the Romans. All he had to do was go and let the Pope put the damn imperial crown on his head.
Who knows? Maybe he'd prefer hunting and consorting with bathhouse wenches to spending time with the Pope.
Well, so would I must admit.
Sigismund's plan seemed sound enough, but it didn't quite work out, did it?
It worked for a while. He and his brother reached an agreement. Sigismund took over administration of the kingdom and began planning Wenceslas's journey to Rome for the imperial coronation. But then Wenceslas realized he would just be a puppet with a crown.
I must say, Margrave Jobst, Wenceslas and Prokop behave rather like naughty children in need of a good clout about the ears.
Sigismund would agree. He was already planning his rule of Bohemia, and the rug was pulled from under him. I'd say he lost his patience and decided he'd drag Wenceslas to the coronation kicking and screaming if he had to. Just like a naughty child, as you say.
So he abducted him and your brother Prokop too, if I heard correctly.
Correct.
And you helped him do it, if I heard correctly.
Yes, your graces, it's true. I was there when Sigismund abducted Prokop. I thought everything could somehow be settled, that we could make my brother see sense. But Sigismund just wanted to put an end to the dispute once and for all, whatever the cost. There was nothing I could do to stop him. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. The worst of it is that it was all for nothing. Instead of putting a stop to the revolt, it escalated it, and the result is this chaos we have today.
That's true enough, sir. But I must admit now, I'm not sure what your position is. The king is incompetent, but we must protect him?
The simple truth, gentlemen, is that for all of Wenceslas's...
Больше никого нет. Это правда.
So we'll have to make do with his idleness.
People like him, though.
But what can we do now? Sigismund has the League of Lords behind him. Otto von Bergolf, Heinrich von
The
Rosenberg.
situation has gotten completely out of control. Now even the nobles of the League of Lords are realizing that Sigismund wasn't the right choice.
So now Berghoff is on your side. Are we to assemble an army together with him and face Sigismund on the field of battle?
We're not in Hungary now. Such affairs may be settled elegantly, without unnecessary hostilities or expenses. I have negotiated
Хитер.
an alliance with the Hungarian bishops, the Polish, and of course the Czech nobility, against Sigismund. Every day he is losing the ground under his feet, and that's why I need your help too.
Так.
What kind of help, though? Sigismund has a massive army, and Rosenberg, Berghoff, and Prague are behind him. Do you have an army you could face him with?
But that's not what I mean at all. There's been a revolt against Sigismund in Hungary, partly due to my efforts. And now he'll have to choose whether he wants to gain the Bohemian crown, which is a very risky enterprise, or hold on to the Hungarian one. He can't have both. And there's a tough struggle awaiting him in Hungary.
В Венгрии ждет борьба. Так, в его победе не уверен. Да и Рожбенг с Берговым тоже. Они не глупо, если богемская знать объединится, они перейдут на другую сторону. Интересно. Да, Рацик потерял абсолютно все и даже больше.
What's more, Your Grace, King Wenceslas languishes in captivity in Vienna. He can't rule too well from there.
And what do you propose? To sit with your arms folded till the Bohemian lands are turned to ashes like scarlets? We have to put a stop to this senseless war.
And do you know, sir, what the true position of the League of Lords is?
I'm not on the best of terms with them at this moment, so you'll have to ask them yourselves.
Yes.
Why not? I'll go and visit Bergov at his castle and we'll see what he tells me.
You know, that's not such a bad idea, young sir.
True. Though a little risky.
I doubt Bergov would harm a blue-blooded envoy. And you can find out what he has to say about the and what the League of Lords is planning. Then we'll decide what to do next.
I'll help you compose a letter to him.
I'd like Henry to come with me.
Why not? He's proven himself an able investigator, and he'll also be a good bodyguard if anything should happen.
And I'll send Sir John here to Gutenberg to be my eyes and ears there. I believe both your reports will help us get a better grip on the situation.
When can you set out?
Just as soon as I've packed my things.
Excellent. Margrave Jobst and I will draft the letter. Get ready, and we'll meet back here.
Отлично.
I expect it would be best to write it in your name as Lord of Lipa.
Quite so, Margrave.
What exactly am I to write?
Ох, ну и заварили же они кашицу.
So, it looks like you're off on a mission.
Yes, I can't wait.
I don't want to dampen your spirits, my boy, but watch out.
Племена неспокойные, да, кто знает, что по дороге случится, не говоря уже о том, что и Бергов не святой.
I know. You've shown you can fend for yourself, but do take care.
Ага.
You'll be there to make sure nothing
Будешь следить, чтобы с ним ничего не случилось дурного. Глядите оба, слушай внимательно, что скажет Бергов. Это одно, а вот увидеть ты можешь совсем другое.
And don't get embroiled in anything else. Just hand over the letter, hear out his reply, and return.
Да, это разумно.
Very well.
Вполне.
Bergov is at Trotsky Castle. I think you'll find it quite an eye-opener. It's one of the finest castles in the land. It's 3 days' ride from here, so unless you hit a snag along the way, you'll be back soon enough. Any questions?
Так. Одну секунду. Так, поехали дальше. Связи Люксембургов.
I'm getting a bit lost in the Luxembourg lineage. It all seems a bit too tangled.
The Luxembourgs have ruled the Empire and Bohemia for almost 20 years now. Emperor Charles brought this land to prominence. When he was in power, things had never been so good. Wenceslas and Sigismund are his sons, but by different mothers. Jobst and Prokop are their cousins. They were entrusted with governing Moravia, but instead, they've been in a bitter armed feud for years, and now Sigismund's fallen out with Wenceslas. Wenceslas also had another brother, the youngest, John of Görlitz. who was most probably poisoned. They seem like a hot-blooded lot. It's hard to keep up with their affairs, since they tend to change their alliances from one day to the next.
Кто этот Йост? Да, всем интересно.
He's the Margrave of Moravia. I admit I don't know what to make of him myself. Until recently, he was allied with the League of Lords. For a time, he even served Rupert of the Palatinate against the king. And now suddenly, he's reversed his I don't know what
Перебежчик.
and one can't help being suspicious. It's best to keep a watchful eye on him, but he really is the leader of the resistance against Sigismund these days. We'll just have to see how it all turns out.
I'm a bit concerned so many people seem to think so little of King Wenceslas. You knew him, didn't you? What's he really like?
Well, there's no straightforward answer to that question. He certainly makes a great hunting and drinking companion, but he can be very fiery and impetuous when things don't go as he likes them. He never had much of a head for high office. He finds it tiresome. But once a man's grasped the scepter, it's hard to let it go again. You can't just abscond. You've seen for yourself what happens when he disappears for a few months. Better a bad but legitimate king than a bloody war over the throne.
Логично.
Who is this Prokop that Job spoke of?
Job's brother, the king's cousin,
Угу.
warred over Moravian supremacy for years. Then they were allies for a while, betrayed Wenceslas and sided with Rupert of the Palatinate. But after Sigismund abducted Wenceslas, Prokop fomented a revolt against him, and Sigismund had him captured. Politics. Make of it what you will. I, for one, can't make head of it most of the time.
The League of Lords and that Berghoff we're off to see. Who are they exactly?
The lords of the powerful house,
Совет господ.
Otto Berghoff, Heinrich of Radetz, and others. They're unhappy with the way their influence declined after Wenceslas surrounded himself with the lesser orders of
Никому бы не понравилось. Так, они несколько лет назад похитили короля и вынудили его исполнить свою волю. Тогда им это сошло с рук и теперь объединились с Сигизмундом. Но теперь, похоже, поведение Сигизмунда стало не по нраву, так что они могут и передумать. Посмотрим, что скажет Бергов.
I don't know all that much about Sigismund.
He's the king's younger
Он младший брат и законный король Венгрии. 7 лет назад он возглавил поход против турок и потерпел поражение в Никополе. Кое-кто считает, что это было из-за беспечности французских рыцарей, большинство из которых...
is ambitious and capable.
Так, Сигизмунд человек одаренный, с большими планами. Он, пожалуй, мог бы править лучше Вацлава, но он заносчик.
He himself was held captive.
Не так давно он сдержал в плену венгерская знать. Они его не любят так же, как и чешские и немецкие господа, его брата Вацлава.
Wenceslas joined forces with
Ну, очень забавно, вас объединил силы с Йостом.
Sigismund repaid
И вот теперь Сигизмунд платит брату. Неисповедимы пути Господни.
various ways.
Это уж точно. Так,
Rupert of the Palatinate. That's a name I hadn't heard before today.
Rupert is the Prince Elector of the Palatinate.
What's a Prince Elector?
The Prince Electors are dignitaries
князи и священной римской империи, которым дано право выбирать римского короля, который затем коронуется папой и становится римским императором.
for himself with the help of 3 other.
Сам взял себе этот титул с помощью 3 других кюрфюстов. Часть имперских признала притязание Руперта, но когда он отправился в Рим, чтобы короноваться на трон императора, все обернулось провалом. Теперь он делает все, чтобы его признал Вацлав. Но пока безуспешно.
So far, without success. So, now we have 2 Romans. Jobst sided with Sigismund for a while, but now he switched allegiance. He seems to do that quite a lot.
Так,
That young man, Sir John of Liechtenstein. Why is he here?
The Liechtensteins are a powerful Austrian family with estates in Austria and Moravia. Sir John sits on Jobst's council. Since the king's being held captive in Vienna, I suppose it makes sense to have a powerful Austrian house as allies. It could be very useful.
согласен.
That's about all.
Very well. Take the letter from Sir Hanush.
Берем письмо и отправляемся.
I believe we have written it well, gentlemen.
Without a doubt. No one could deduce from this whether we are Sigismund's allies or foes.
I must travel back to Brno now, but soon I will go to Brandenburg and I will stop here on the way back. By then, Sir Capon should be back and we can discuss how to proceed.
Right. Before you leave, my lord.
Так, одно не дает мне покоя.
No rest.
Какого вы...
Why did Sigismund come as a foe? It makes no sense.
If I may, sir, I think I can explain.
Oh, please enlighten us, young sir.
I live not far from Hungary, where Sigismund reigns. It is a savage country, and the constant war with the Turks has hardened the people. They need a monarch with an iron hand. So when Sigismund felt the wind of revolt, he reacted as he would at home. Only what works on the Hungarian nobles does not work here in Bohemia.
Bringing order is one thing, but slaughtering and pillaging with a horde of barbarians quite another. What purpose does that serve?
But Sigismund did give the Bohemian nobles a chance to take his side. It was only when they refused his ultimatum that he lost patience and took to the sword.
As for the barbarians, he could afford nothing better. The Hungarian nobility would gain nothing from joining his campaign in Bohemia. He didn't have enough coin for a regular army, and so he recruited the Cumans. What he does not pay them, they make up for in plunder.
But in the end, he didn't have enough to even satisfy the Cumans. That's why he raided Gutenberg and Skalitz. He wanted the silver.
That makes sense.
My lords, how's the letter coming along?
It's done.
Then we can be on our way.
Now remember what we said, boy. All you have to do is deliver the letter, listen to the answer, and come back here. Don't provoke Berghoff in any way.
Provoke? Me? Never, uncle. Farewell, your graces. Come, Henry, my men are waiting.
I wish you Godspeed.
Да. 80. Так. Вы завершили основной сюжет. Вы еще можете выполнять сторонние задания или просто путешествовать по миру. А чтобы завершить игру, присоединитесь к отряду птачика и ускочите за ним за пределы карты. Угу. Так, что же нам делать, что же нам делать? Ну, если что, у нас есть же сохранение, мы сохраним все вот так. Да. И поскачем с птачком.
Wishing you'd stayed home at Ratai instead of...
You must be joking.
Really? Despite being wounded? Actually, you missed the best part. When I...
It can't have been that much fun if I fell asleep. But you might have handled me a bit more gently. I'm all over.
Oh, all right then. Next time I'll to Istvan's tender mercies.
Nonsense. What would you do without me? Still, thank you for hauling me out of there.
Anything for you, my lord.
Так.
There was one more.
I see.
Very well.
Угу. И, наверное, так не пойдет.
Are you with me?
Так, это мы уже только что читали, так что давай отправимся с тобой.
So, can we set off?
Давно пора.
Of course. So, to horse. The Lord of Burgov is bound to be.
Интересно, далеко нам бежать? Надеюсь, запустится какой-нибудь триггер.
I'm getting used to it. What about Rodsey?
Ага.
Accounted for not owning up to you the whole time.
He explained it. All will be well, I think.
Glad to hear it. It's far more acceptable for a nobleman to befriend a noble bastard than a blacksmith.
You don't come to blows with a blacksmith, my young lord.
Какой заносчивый птачек.
What do you think about Sir Yobst and his plan?
Well, I admit all the scheming has me a little lost. I thought Sigismund was the devil, Wenceslas a martyr, those on his side the heroes, and those against him the villains. I believed we'd rescue the king and all would be well again, but now it looks a lot more complicated.
Exactly. I didn't expect the noble lords to be as noble as the angels, but I hadn't expected such a sewer. They behave like children.
I can't fathom how after all this backstabbing they're somehow still on speaking terms.
I don't know either. Beggars belief.
Интересно, куда мы направляемся. И вернемся ли мы?
Such a
Feckless drunkard? Not really. And to be honest, I'm not sure I wanted to know. I slept better believing my fate was watched over by a wise and powerful monarch.
so did I.
What a dismal world when you can't keep trust in your own king.
On the other hand, times were
Пожили бы они с Путиным.
Isn't that the truth?
Посмотрим, как они бы заговорили в таком случае.
do you think of Sigismund?
If I were him,
Look at what those hordes of his are getting up to here. What he did in Skalitz.
true enough. On the other hand, if Wenceslas and Prokop hadn't double-crossed him, none of this would have happened.
No one forced him to burn Skalitz.
That's a fact. But he couldn't let them shit all over him either. Not that I'm defending him.
He's a weasel.
No doubt about that.
Да, мерзавец. В этом сомнений никаких.
Do you know anything about Prokop?
Sir Hanush could tell you a thing or two about him.
Why?
Last winter, a certain Sir Jan
Пан Сокол.
well-known knight, or robber baron to some, tried to occupy the city of Iglau, which was on the orders of none other than Prokop.
And what has that got to do with Hanush?
Well, he was there with him. Of course, that's not something to brag about in front of Jobst.
And what was it all about?
They wanted to occupy a city that was inside of the League of Lords, but despite there being several hundred strong, they didn't take it. For one thing, they couldn't get past the Iglau women, with their pitchforks and cauldrons of hot water.
I would never have thought of Sir Hanush as such a rebel.
Мятежник. Ну что поделаешь.
A little. He can't manage even to wrest power from a king who doesn't much care for ruling and isn't fighting back. That doesn't seem like a man who has what it takes to rule. And that's all I need to know.
Угу. Бессомненно.
And that Burgov we're going to see, do you know anything about him?
I haven't heard much good about him, but I have a feeling that some other nobles are quite in awe of him. And his castle is apparently quite impressive. I'll be interested to see for myself.
And what about the League of Lords?
Wealthy, pompous. The king doesn't seem to like them much. He's chosen to let the lesser ranks of the nobility into his circle, men like your father. I admit I don't blame him one bit. But the lords weren't happy about their lost influence, so they put their foot down. If I were Wenceslas, I'd have let them hang after they abducted me the first time. But he gave them seats at the provincial council? Little wonder they're back at their old tricks.
Да, какой-то странный король. Однако его предали раз. Ой, не повернул. Куда мы едем? Ага, мы уже и в Нойхофе. Видимо, куда-то выезжаем. Ну да, за пределы карты. По большому тракту в сторону замка этого злодея. А где же свита? Мы выезжали, нас было много. Больше. Ни на кого нельзя положиться. Кобылки. Тут, скорее всего, место какого-нибудь преступления. Здесь ставят заграждение разбойники. Потому что они не ставят заграждение абы где. Видимо, только в каких-то определенных местах запрограммированных. Так, куда ты делся? Там какой-то лагерь. Вроде как. Наверное, это опасно. Надо прикрыть задницу птачика. Угу. Он слез. Видимо, это лагерь птачика. Дорого это все стоит. Конечно. И поехали.
Let's get to it then. I finally have the feeling we're doing something worthwhile. We're helping to save the king.
Instead of saving his drunken majesty, I'd rather find that whoreson who murdered my parents, get the sword back from him, and secure him with it.
Cheer up, Henry. I have a feeling you'll get your chance one day, and it won't be long in coming. Forward, men! Audentes fortuna juvat!
Красиво, однако, поскакали. Конец. Что, это прям совсем конец, что ли? Не пойму. Или что это? Как это? Продолжить. Продолжить. О. Ну что ж, на сегодня пока все. Странный конец какой-то. Видимо, продолжение нужно докупать. Тогда мы продолжим немного в следующий раз. Всем спасибо за